It's the podcast of Doom Spoilercast!
Indeed.
Legend of Korra, Book 4.
Episode 6.
The Battle of Zaofu.
The Battle of Zaofu.
So...
But not the Battle of Zhu-Li'd. The Battle of Zaofu.
Not the Battle of Zhu-Li'd, no. The Battle of Zaofu.
And it wasn't a battle as we usually think about it.
Mm-hmm.
It was more of a duel.
Right.
The Duel of Zaofu.
It should have been called the Duel of Zaofu.
Nah.
But I think the Battle of Zaofu probably...
Well, I think the way it actually all went down, it was a battle.
Mm.
And it was a three-sided battle, kind of, when you think about it.
Yeah.
You had Kuvira, you had Korra, and then you had the Avatar Korra.
Right.
And they were all three fighting at the same time, each other. Well, mostly it was 2-on-1 against Korra.
Mm. Well, the one thing that, the thing that bothered me, I think, the most about the fight is that Korra didn't try to use anything but firebending and earthbending until she went to the Avatar state.
Yeah.
I didn't see any waterbending at all.
Well, there's no water around, so
right.
I mean, that was out. But she was using some airbending, but she was mostly just lashing out. She wasn't actually employing any kind of strategy. Yeah. She was just kind of attacking head on, kind of like we're used to with her. She just always kind of just jumps in and just doesn't really formulate any kind of a plan.
Well, she even said, she's like, I might be a little rusty, but I have a lot of anger to work out.
Yeah.
And that's what she did. She just went in swinging,
Yep.
And
Kuvira, who's been pretty well, her skills have been pretty well sharpened the last 3 years. So she was able to evade pretty much all the attacks and keep putting Korra on her back.
But she fought very defensively, as Korra was just lashing out with anger.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out what kind of martial arts style that her fighting style comes from. Because traditionally, earthbending is horse, stance. But Toph had a different one. She was more of a mantis style. And we're trying to figure out Kuvira's, because she has an entirely different style that's all her own as well. That seems a bit closer to Taekwondo, but not quite,
It's very... It's fluid still, but it's jumpy and bouncy.
Yeah, it's a defensive...
It's almost like kickboxing.
It's like a defensive style where you wait for an opening and then you strike, but you sit there and let your opponent wear themselves out and create openings instead of trying to do it yourself.
Right.
And then with the metal bands that she shoots out, and she can hook around wrists and ankles and faces, it's a unique style.
It's definitely... The first exchange they have is amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's probably my favorite part of the fight, is just because it's like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. Korra has never fought anyone like this before. And so immediately she's already like, oh god, my usual overpowering with multiple element attacks isn't going to work here because she's a military person. She's been fighting a war.
Right.
And she has her own unique style that uses both earth and metal bending in equal parts. Usually when you fight someone who can metal bend, they tend to just stick with metal. Like when she was, sparring with Sue, when she was learning, it was basically just straight metal bending.
Right.
But Kuvira does not leave the earth bending part of it aside. She does things like, turn the rock underneath Korra's foot to make her lose her balance and open her up for an attack.
Right.
Little things like that really show Kuvira is way ahead of anyone else she's fought.
And she's outthinking her is definitely what she's doing there.
Yeah, and she's fought a lot of experienced benders. But, Unalaq was only a waterbender, and he could do stuff with spirits. But on his own as a waterbender, he couldn't overpower her, even just as a waterbender. She was a more powerful waterbender than he was. Zahir was not a more powerful airbender than she was. He just, had he had nothing to lose and a few extra tricks up his sleeve. Like, he was willing to do things you would never consider, like sucking the air out of somebody's lungs.
Right.
That made him dangerous. But with Kuvira, it's not that she considers, or does things that are unthinkable. She's just so well trained. Because she started out as, a guard at the Metal City in Zaofu. Then she started, this military coup. And so she's been fighting and training pretty much her whole life.
Right.
Whereas Korra kind of got, she got, these different masters brought into her to train her, but she didn't really have to fight under any kind of, combat circumstances where it's life or death. she kind of was always more of a student in like a traditional educational setting.
She was taught martial arts and bending because she was the Avatar.
Yeah.
Whereas
Kuvira.
Whereas Kuvira, she learned it because she was a bender, but also because she was military.
Yeah.
And she was in the police force, and
she
used it practically.
She absolutely had to have her skills be the best they could be to survive.
Right.
And to get by every day to day, because it would be the difference between life and death would be, that extra bit of training.
Mm-hmm.
So it really shows through in this fight that Kuvira controls the fight from start to finish. The only time she's not controlled is when Korra goes into the Avatar state, and they can overwhelm her with just the power. It isn't so much that Korra gets better at fighting; it's just the power's level is so much higher that any attack she does will overwhelm Kuvira, because Kuvira is just not that powerful. But the problem we saw, Korra's still not out of the woods yet. She still has problems. She's got the poison out of her veins now. But when she was fighting Kuvira, when she was going in to make the finishing blow, Kuvira looks up and Korra sees her face, the Avatar with the Avatar state going, and then loses her nerve.
Right. And she's obviously still not over what's happened to her.
Yeah,
she was able to bend the remaining poison out of her veins, but that doesn't mean that she's purged herself mentally.
She's healed her body, but she's not healed her mind.
Right.
She might have let go of the past battles, but it looks like she still is afraid of the Avatar state itself. She's afraid of herself as the Avatar still.
She's afraid of losing herself in her spirit form, you know what I mean? And I think that's understandable, you know what I mean? Like, Aang, when Aang took on the Avatar form the first time, when he became the water monster that took out the Northern Water Tribe.
Yeah, he took out the Fire Navy.
The Fire Navy.
He saved the Northern Water Tribe.
The Northern Water Tribe. When he came out of that, he didn't have any recollection of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. He lost himself to the Avatar state.
Yeah, but Aang's fears of or his reservations of going into the Avatar state were different. It wasn't that he was afraid of losing himself or that he was afraid of himself in general. It was that he was afraid of the destruction he can cause. Right. He saw what he did there as that giant spirit creature when basically he kind of merged with the ocean spirit and became that giant fish. And then from there on he didn't want to go in the Avatar state because he was apprehensive of what he could do in the Avatar state. Right. They even showed the very first episode of the next season when the Earth Kingdom guy is gonna drown Katara in the Earth or whatever, and that he won't go in the Avatar state until he actually thinks she's gone, and then becomes an emotional trigger. But he doesn't want to do it because he doesn't want to hurt people. Right. Korra, it's not that. She's not afraid that she's gonna hurt people. She's afraid it's gonna hurt herself. Right. She's afraid of herself. And because when she's in the Avatar state, that's when she's at her weakest. Every time you think about all through these seasons, every time she's been in the Avatar state is when she's suffered the greatest pain and loss. She was in the Avatar state when Rava was pulled out of her by Unalaq. Right. She was in the Avatar state when she was poisoned, and she had to try to force herself to stay out of the Avatar state so that way if she died, the Avatar cycle would continue. And then when she got put into it, she almost got suffocated as it. So, for Korra, she sees the Avatar state as her most weak point instead of the strongest point. Whereas Aang saw that it was too powerful. She thinks that when she's in the Avatar state, she's too weak. She's too vulnerable. So she doesn't. She's like she says, it's a last resort. And when she gets in there, she can't handle it. Right. So again, the way they're differentiating Korra from Aang, I'm really enjoying still, and they're making this character a wholly unique Avatar. Because I think a lot of people were worried when they were like, "Oh, is it going to be the same story again? Avatar learns how to bend and saves the world." Right. And it's been a very different story.
Yeah, definitely. Her Korra's character arc has been completely different. Than Aang's was. And there has been some likenesses, and there's the big bad that they have to stop. You know what I mean? But I think that Korra's journey is a lot more introverted.
Yeah.
Where I think Aang's was a lot more extroverted.
Yep.
Aang's was a lot more, I have to save the world.
Yeah.
Korra's is more, what am I, who am I, and figuring herself out.
Who am I?
Yeah. Who am I?
No, and the other thing that's interesting, too, when you compare the two series, is that Last Airbender had one main villain, a couple of smaller things, but basically it was the Fire Nation, and therefore the Fire Lord was what you're building to. Korra, it's been, every season's had a new villain that she's had to fight, because the series is more about her than about the world. I think Last Bender is, despite being called The Last Airbender, it wasn't that much about Aang. Mm-hmm. It was about the entire world and about this war. Mm-hmm. Whereas Legend of Korra is about Korra.
Right.
And that's why we're not seeing carryover in villains. You know, we haven't seen the Red Lotus again. That we know they're probably still around somewhere. But this is, because Korra's not dealing with them, it's not important.
Right.
This is entirely about Korra and the decisions she's making and the life that she's leading.
Right.
So, as a result of Korra's freak out, she loses the fight, and Kuvira looks like she's going to straight up murder her. So, Opal and Jinora step in to protect Korra, and then the two of them, along with Ikki and Milo, get on their bison and get out of Dodge. Sue tells them to, just to go, don't stay here. Basically run to fight another day.
Right.
And so Zaofu has fallen, and every member of Suyin's family is now being taken to a re-education camp, including Juan, who was great to see him again.
Yeah.
he was having art time with Milo and Ikki, which was really nice. Again, a little nice burst of levity in the middle of a very serious episode.
Right.
And then also, with the more of the levity, was Varrick'd, who is becoming a great... I'm really I liked him before because he was funny and Howard Hughes-ish, but now it's like he's actually becoming a character you want to root for.
Right, yeah.
So he gets sent back to the train with Batar Jr., or just Junior, as I'm going to call him from now on. He hates it. I hate that guy. I hate him more than Kuvira. I was saying during this thing. Kuvira at least has, a
motive and self goals.
She's got goals and motivations.
He's just blindly following.
He's just a follower. He's just a fucking lapdog, and he just mouths off. So fuck Junior. Fuck middle fingers, Junior. Anyway, so he's got Varrick'd and Bolin on the train in prison, and they're gonna work on the Spirit Vine project again. And Varrick'd convinces them by saying that he needs an assistant, and he can't have it be one of the guards because his hands might get blown off. So the guard volunteers Bolin for it
to be his assistant,
which is hilarious. Bolin's like, no,
I know nothing about it, and I need my hands.
So basically, the whole time, Varrick'd is yelling at Bolin to do the thing. Bolin doesn't know what thing he's talking about. I never had to tell Zhu-Li'd what the thing was. And then the great speech about. And then, so finally, he's in there, he's tinkering with it, he's doing stuff. Junior's trying to follow along, and he kind of half is. Because he starts saying out loud, he's like, looks like you're just redirecting the power back to its source. What are you doing down there? And then Varrick'd, finishes, and he turns it on, and then you hear a beeping. Like, what's that sound? Oh, it's a timer. This is a bomb now. I'm gonna blow up this entire train.
If you don't leave now, in 5 minutes, this is gonna blow everyone up in this train up.
He says that's gonna blow up no matter what, so it's up to you if you want to leave.
Right.
And so Varrick'd is basically ready to suicide bomb. He's ready to go down with the ship. And he's like, this'll show you, Zhu-Li'd. He's like,
just take him away. And he's like, I have a remote too.
Yeah, they have a remote detonator. Just in case they try to take him away too. So he's covering all his bases.
And he's like, yeah, why did you make a timer if you had a remote? I made the timer first. And I realized that you could just take me away, so then I made the remote. Then I realized I didn't need the timer anymore, and it doesn't matter! Yeah.
And then the trend of using people's names as verbs continues.
Yes.
He's like, you'll be sorry you left me, Zhu-Li'd. One day they'll be talking, and they'll say, what happened to that guy? Oh, I heard he Varrick'd himself because some girl Zhu-Li'd him! But luckily Bolin is not a dying type, so after Junior and the rest of the posse leave and uncouple the train cars, Bolin sees a hatch in the floor and grabs Varrick'd. Or first he slaps Varrick'd, then he grabs him, and then they jump through the hatch and he burrows them to safety in the ground, using the earth to shield them from the blast.
That was a giant explosion.
Yeah,
well.
And then it had that sound. And he even said that he got the idea for the weapon, or from everything, from Umilok monster from season 2, and that's why it looks so familiar. It has that sound, that kind of thing.
It's definitely, if Junior can reassess it and reuse it, it will be a devastating weapon.
Yeah.
And now he's got Zhu-Li because he said he needed an assistant.
Yeah.
And so Zhu-Li's going to be his assistant.
He thinks he can replicate it. I have a feeling Zhu-Li can replicate it.
Probably.
So it's going to be, this will be the litmus test if she's loyal to Kuvira completely, or if she just it was a fake betrayal just to try to
see real life.
Yeah, or to try to be the mole.
Right.
So we'll see what happens here. Zhu-Li obviously can probably build that thing no problem because she probably did do most of the work.
True. I mean, Varrick would say do the thing, and then she would do the thing. So
yeah, she already knew exactly what to do. So.
Right.
And I think Junior's going to be sitting there, and he's going to be like, I think this is how it goes. And she'll nudge him, like, say, no, like this. And then try to just push it so that it gets screwed up.
Right.
That's what I'm hoping.
It's hoping.
Because I don't want Zhu-Li to be a bad person, because I like Zhu-Li. I don't want her to be a bad guy.
She really didn't. She didn't have much of a character. She was just kind of the
put upon assistant,
right? Until this season,
I still loved it because every once in a while she'd had that sarcastic comment,
right?
So I don't know. I dug the character, and then when she you realize that she's a super badass fighter, it's kind of like no, not Zhu-Li.
Now she's turning against us.
Yeah,
but it's also made Varrick's character a lot more likable. So
yeah.
So I'm definitely I want to see where Varrick and Bolin are going to go. You got to see where the Avatar is going to go.
I'm curious to see what Opal's going to do too, because Kuvira kind of called her out. Like she's like, Bolin, where's Bolin? He would never be okay with this. It's like Bolin's with my fiance working on a project. He's matured. You haven't seen him the last 3 years. He's matured. It's like, ooh,
yeah,
ow. Poor Opal. Lost her family, and Kuvira took a dig at her boyfriend. Or at her and her boyfriend's relationship.
And it makes me wonder what the Air Tribe is actually going to end up doing, because they're supposed to stay neutral.
They swore an oath of non-aggression, so that they can't take sides. But what I'm hoping now, the next part of this series, is that I think obviously now that Zaofu's been taken, the thing about a warlord like Kuvira, because she is a warlord,
she's not going to be able to stop.
Yeah, you don't just. It isn't about just unifying it. Now she's going to say, well, "Look how great we are." It's going to be like the Fire Nation in the first series.
Yeah.
Now it's time to bring our message to everybody else. Right. Republic City is going to get.
Well, you know that she's already got supporters in Republic City.
Yeah, so Republic City is going to be the next target. I have a feeling that we're going to see Korra and a few Team Avatar maybe retreat out of Republic City. And I'm thinking when I finally see the Fire Nation again, the second half of this season, might shift focus back to the Fire Nation so we can see what it's been like now, post Zuko rule, with his daughter now as the new Fire Lord, or Fire Lass.
Fire Lass.
Probably
may still be the Fire Lord.
Lord is gender neutral. Fire Lady.
Yeah.
It's the Fire Lady. But I'm curious to see how different it is, and what because obviously with Zuko and Aang being there, it's probably a lot more progressive. It's going to be very interesting to see the contrast from how it was in Last Airbender to now, 70 years later.
Right.
So I'm hoping that's where it goes next. I don't want it to be just back Republic City the whole time. We got to see how the Water Tribes changed. I want to see how the Fire Nations changed.
I want to see what's going on with Mako, because we haven't had him in 2 episodes now. So
yeah. With Prince Wu.
So
who looks better and better by the week, by the way. He might be a brat, but at least he's not a megalomaniac.
Right.
So
hopefully we'll shift some focus back to that. Maybe that's where they're headed to take Korra too.
Yeah,
so.
I mean Republic City is going to be a target now. It's not going to be safe to be there, especially if Korra's not recovered.
Right.
So they might need to get her out of harm's way, and the safest place, probably the only place that has the military that could rival Kuvira would be the Fire Nation. Right. So
we know the Air Nation is just starting back up.
Yeah, and they are not going to get involved, and, unless it's part of a unifying pact against Kuvira,
right?
Including Earth Kingdom rebels. Ooh, Earth Kingdom Rebels spin-off series. Anyway, that's enough for this week. We're into speculation land, so that's always when it's time to stop.
Yep. So we will be back again next week for episode 7. Does it have a name? Do you know yet?
Oh, it absolutely has a name. I don't know what it is.
But,
I guarantee you 100% that it has a name.
That makes perfect sense. But we will be back again next week. Make sure you check out our main podcast at podcastofdoom.com. You can always join the conversation with us on Twitter or on Facebook. And you can always buy our stuff if you're inclined to support us. So
if you have disposable income.
Exactly. So thanks again, guys, for listening. We do really appreciate it. On behalf of the Podcast of Doom, I'm Friar Dan.
I'm that guy Todd.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Spoilers.